from a public health perspective. I have two large concerns. One is for the health and safety of the athletes and the officials, and the other, of course, is for the Japanese people. Now, starting with the athletes, there is no requirement for athletes and their entourages, or even the media, to be vaccinated before they go to Japan. The IOC president has said that he expects 80% of athletes to be vaccinated. I don't know where that figure comes from, but even if he's correct, that leaves thousands of athletes and coaches who won't be vaccinated and therefore be vulnerable to being infected while they're in Tokyo, in particular in the village where they may come in contact with people who are infected, and also in locker rooms, gyms, and other open areas. So I think that is my main concern.
Besides the pandemic, climate change adding another risk to the Tokyo Olympics. A UK report warns that intense heat and humidity could threaten the health and performance of athletes taking part in the Games. The British Association for Sustainable Sport, or BASIS, says athletes are increasingly being asked to compete in environments, quote, too hostile for the human body. And that impact would likely be felt in Japan this summer. Forecasts suggest temperatures in the Japanese capital will average around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius, but could rise up to 39.1 degrees Celsius. That is more than 10 degrees higher than the average during the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. It will place the city amongst a handful of Olympic hosts with temperatures higher than 25 degrees Celsius. Some events, including the marathon and road cycling, have already been shifted to cooler places. The BASIS study recommends more measures being put in place to mitigate risk of heat illnesses, such as improved education, additional cooling breaks, and heightened medical provisions. And Christine Chan is back in a moment with your Asia Business Update. Amazon's acquisition of MGM Studios, the latest mega media merger, raising the stakes in the entertainment sector over streaming content. And later, celebrated scientist Stephen Hawking gets a spot in Cambridge University's library restaurant.
Every day, the financial world goes through dramatic rise and falls. We'll track the biggest market movers and show you where the opportunities lie. Get the experts' take on the performance of key indices. Plus all the analysis to help you understand forces driving global economies. The daily business news you need, only on CNA. This segment is brought to you by Xeon Corporation.
He's just looking at us with his eyes wide open. Oh, it's so cute.
I'm Shushan, and in this series, I'll be tracking into hidden parts of Singapore.
Oh my God, capture us!
To find out what's being done to save our biodiversity.
Every animal plays a significant role.
And if we're running out of time.
It seems that there is an uptrend in the number of roadkills.
It's in our nature. Video on demand on CNA.Asia.
ナナちゃんは山梨名物のほうとう食べたいもの触れていません。俺全部いつも置くかな。
へえ、こうやってなるんだ。いい話。
はいはい。
Japan Hour, Saturday on CNA. Japan Hour is brought to you by Sumitomo Corporation and SMBC.
In 1977, we took air travel to a whole new level when it comes to exclusivity.
4 Singaporeans go back in time to search for more answers from Singapore's past.
What was the experience on the Concorde like?
The pilots can actually see the curvature of the Earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
From tracking down a legendary white crocodile.
We have here the only mention of white crocodile, Buaya Putih, in the Straits of Singapore.
There's this element of
what's the truth there.
To uncovering what used to lie under an iconic building.
This green building here is very curious.
What we are looking at is the full extent of Kampung Glam, actually.
What else lies forgotten in the vault of time?
In the early days, you could just walk into a shop and buy a gun.
Wait, so back then, people could keep guns at home?
Oh, we had guns at home. My father was a gun owner.
Wow.
Watch Into the Vault 3 on demand at cna.asia.
Back. Well, the severity of the global chip shortage, that has forced companies to try and find new ways to secure this very crucial resource to them. The electric car maker Tesla is about to make advance payments in order to guarantee their orders in a very tight supply market. They're reportedly in talks with their chip suppliers in Taiwan, in South Korea, and the United States to take this very unusual step. Tesla is also said to be actively considering buying its own semiconductor plant in order to directly supply and meet its own needs. Now, remember, the EV maker already has an engineering team which designs very high-end chips for its autonomous driving units. But the analysts say the cost of such an investment would be excessive for Tesla. That financial commitment would set them back by as much as $20 billion. Now, quite apart from the car industry, other industries are also trying to navigate this global chip crunch through similar means. Cisco, for instance, has also put money in escrow to reserve those chips. And 4 other companies last month had reportedly used advanced deposits to try and secure semiconductors from Taiwan's UMC. So these dedicated buying agreements appear to be a departure from the traditional business model of contract chip making. Profitability used to depend on the chip makers being very flexible when allotting capacity to their many customers. But now, even they concede contracting arrangements may have to change with demand for those very specialized and customized semiconductors rapidly increasing. Now, according to some reports, the world's largest maker of memory chips, Samsung, they've already dedicated some of their production lines to the specific customers on their books, and they appear open to making similar arrangements with a few others. Now, Amazon will be acquiring MGM Studios for more than $8 billion, nearly $8.5 billion, in fact, and they want to cement their place amongst the entertainment and streaming titans. The e-commerce giant says the financial value of such an acquisition lies deep in the catalog of content which MGM owns. There are some 4,000 films and 17,000 television shows to boost Amazon's film and TV division. Now, this will be their second largest acquisition ever. It just sits behind the $13.7 billion purchase of Whole Foods more than 3 years ago. Amazon has ramped up their spending in a very crowded streaming market, and their rivals like Disney, Netflix, and Apple are continuing to churn out their own original content. Now, Amazon spent about $11 billion on video and music content across 2020. That's up from their spend in 2019. Joining us live now is James Dampney. He's editor of streaming at Finder, and he speaks to us from Sydney today. He'll help us unpack what these mega media mergers might mean for the industry. James, with Amazon's acquisition of MGM after the AT&T Warner Media Discovery deal, tell us what is the significance of these deals? You know, do they have the same impact on the origination of content and the growth of the end user markets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line for all these major streaming players is content. Content is king. Amazon Prime are doing a fair bit of their own original content, but they can't catch up with players like Netflix, who really have the market share and have such a head start, really. So as you mentioned there with the amount of content, it's about 25,000 hours worth of content. Obviously, it would take a long time to try to make that sort of content yourself. And it's also the type of titles that they've picked up with this acquisition. So, you know, major franchises like the James Bond movies, the Rocky movies. There's a whole bunch of TV shows, Handmaid's Tale. They're looking at Survivor, things like that. So the main thing people want is content. They're prepared to shift providers if they've got better content elsewhere. So what they've done today is a big step in the right direction.
But as you say, James, all this takes time. The acquisition of content today isn't going to last you in infinity. But for revenue terms, how big would you say this pie potentially is? How